Hey y'all, we have a tag team title match and a possible kidnapping that we didn't see on screen but possibly took place. Then, of course, we have the continuation of the WoW Trios tournament. Of course, this is the fourth anniversary of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast edition of Steph and Cat Talk WoW. It's an amazing day, y'all.
Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs and the Ruben Studders. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers of Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers of Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape for every one of us. I was kinda late, so I just made it up the struggle bus. Walking by the fate, cause I know it's right in front of us.
Hey y'all! Welcome to a new episode of Steph and Cat Talk WoW, brought to you by In Cat We Trust and the 4 year strong The Hardy Wrestling Podcast. Of course, I'm your girl Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of HWP, contributing writer for Fansided's Daily DDT, and color commentator featured on The Belladonna Division, Battle Club Pro, Black Girl Magic 2022, and Spartan Wrestling. But of course, I am not alone. With me is my amazing and fabulous tag team partner, my partner in crime, my better half, or at least my other better half, because I have a lot of better halves, but it's okay. Um, and she is also a writer for Daily DDT as well as other platforms, and also for herself, an amazing super mom and creator of In Cat We Trust and creator of the Women of Color in Wrestling panel. She is Katrina Blake. How are you, Kat?
Hey, happy Thursday, everybody. I'm okay, tired, but okay, happy to be here.
Absolutely. And of course, we have Eric in the chat, always posted up and ready even before the show starts. We thank you so much for your support. And of course, everyone who's watching on YouTube, on Twitter, and everywhere else, thank you guys so much for watching and being supportive during this crazy time in wrestling that we are currently having. Like, oh my God. We are currently programming side by side with the WrestleMania press conference that is currently going on. And women's wrestling history is even happening now as we speak, with Becky Lynch having a face-off with Rhea Ripley, the WWE Women's World Champion. And it's been a hectic week, a hectic weekend even before that in wrestling. But in the midst of that, so much has happened. But yet, WoW also took place. And we are definitely going to talk about the hottest all-women's wrestling show on television. But before we get to the episode, there was something interesting that happened online today. So, of course, since yesterday was AEW Dynamite Day, there was a special announcement that was given by the CEO, Tony Khan, about a special episode that will be taking place within Boston at the TD Garden called Big Business, which a lot of people are speculating will be the AEW debut of Mercedes Moné, who is, of course, in my opinion, the greatest women's wrestler of all time. And of course, they are speculating that this is where she'll be making her debut because she's mentioned multiple times that Boston is a place where she started her wrestling career, and so it would only make sense that she debuts there. So in the midst of all of this going on, today, she posted in her Instagram stories a picture of the Tonga Twins, our WoW Tag Team Champions, who we will talk more about a little bit later. And I'm freaking out because I'm like, yo, why are the Tonga Twins in your story? Because as far as we know, she has never really mentioned anything about going to WoW or mentioned, or at least alluded to it until today. And this was really amazing. So I was just like, oh my God, that's crazy. And even once before, a couple of episodes ago, I mentioned, like, wouldn't it be cool if Mercedes did, sign to WoW Superheroes? Wouldn't that be the talk of the town if they did? So the idea that she shared a picture of these twins in her Instagram story was just absolutely beautiful. And I was like, okay, so she has her finger on the pulse of every freaking thing. And I loved it. And so, of course, since the Tonga twins saw this, and when I posted about it on my Twitter, the Tonga twins responded by saying, hey, if she wants to ever work together, she knows where to find us. Call her up, just call us up. And I was just like, oh my God, a collab. Wouldn't it be amazing if there was a collab between these amazing and powerful women? Like, I don't think the world is ready for that, but if it did happen, it would be amazing. Like, what if the Tonga twins were like security for her or something like that? Or what if they started a faction? Like, that would just be some insane stuff. So, Katrina, how do you feel about this little bit of, wow, social stuff going on between Kona Chaos and Mercedes Monet?
I like it. I'm very fortunate to be able to meet Mercedes in October, and that was super awesome. And she was just, I know people have whatever stories they have, but for me, she was great. And we love the Tongas as well, and so I would definitely not be opposed if we randomly decide to just, she shows up to WoW, even if it's a one off, even if it's just a one off, I wouldn't mind. Maybe get AJ in there just to get it all, see all the girlies. I wouldn't mind. For one off, if that's 'cause I feel like she still wants to do a bunch of things. And while I know it's assumed that she's probably with AEW now because of the whole Boston thing, which I'm surprised. To be fair, it's a rant for another day. Because I'm a little surprised that she would go knowing, just I feel like they don't do the women always correct over there. So that's my problem I have with them sometimes. But either way, I wouldn't mind seeing them. I love her. I love the Tongas. I would, even if it's a one-off or some kind of even non-wrestling collab, there's just something else that's just some extra goodies, I wouldn't mind. I'm definitely not opposed to any of that.
Me neither. Like, I feel like if she were to ever collaborate with WoW in any way, like if she were like the general manager for them for like maybe a couple episodes or something, like, or if she worked out a deal where she could double back between AEW and New Japan and WoW and have a presence there in that aspect, I would just cry. I would just cry my eyes out because I would just be so excited, because the thing that Mercedes Monet and I have in common is the fact that we're both all of us really are really passionate when it comes to women's wrestling and the progression of it. So it would make so much sense if she did, collaborate with WoW in some way. Like, that would be amazing, and that would be unprecedented, for the promotion itself, and it would be amazing for us because we would get to talk about it. It would just be incredible. And I would just cry because I love her so much and I love WoW so much as a brand. So anything that would progress women's wrestling forward, she has been at the forefront of it for a number of years now at this point. Like, she's made so much history. So it would just make so much sense and it would just be so beautiful. But of course, we just got to wait and see, because you just never know. Because Mercedes does want to, she doesn't want to limit herself. And I really love that about her, is the fact that she just doesn't want to pigeonhole herself in one place. She wants to do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And it's amazing and it's admirable and I love it. But of course, our Tonga twins, Kona and Chaos, have a lot of other stuff going on in the realms of WoW outside of social media. So we got to get to that first of all. The name of this episode was called We Kidnapped Tiki, and that caught me off guard because we didn't see Tiki throughout this whole episode and we did not see her get kidnapped. And I looked all over social media and didn't see anything about her getting kidnapped, but apparently that happened off screen somehow. So maybe we'll get some more answers as to, what happened with that and who actually did it. But it was alluded that the last call did it to get under the skin of the Tonga twins, which I guess led us to what happened in the episode. So of course, this episode aired this past weekend, February 3rd and the 4th. So um David and Nigel Zane were on David McLean and Nigel Zane were on commentary again. And something amazing that I noticed was the fact that David McLean was giving Nigel compliments and saying, that, people really like to hear your voice. And he was just like those historians who like you. And I was just like, is David talking about us? But you know, it's okay if he's not. I mean, if he's not, I get it. But then at the same time, I was just like, because we have discussed how Nigel Zane seems to be a natural fit on commentary. So I was just like, so is David McClain talking about us? Does he know that we be talking about him and da 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 da? But it's okay. Yeah. So the last call come out and they start the episode by talking a whole lot of smack. And Reina Del Rey was talking about how was basically telling everybody to shut up in Spanish. She said, "Cállate pendejos." So y'all know what that means. She basically told everybody to shut up and call them stupid. And the wrecking ball was just like, look, we only want to hear ourselves talk. And Raina said, look, we've shown time and time again that we are the ones who deserve the opportunity to take those wild tag team titles off of the Tonga Twins, and no one else deserves it, right? So Chaos and Kona, the champions, came out and interrupted them and said, look, we beat y'all before and we'll do it again. And in fact, we ain't even got to wait till the end of the night. We'll do it right now. And they dropped their titles and ran after them. But Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball, with all of their jaw jacking, weren't ready to fight right then. They was just, they slid out of the ring and just said, nah, we'll do it on our time. We'll do it on our time. So it was announced that the main event was going to be the last call versus the Tonga Twins for the Wild Tag Team titles. So that's how that happened. And then, of course, they showed a recap of the trios tournament and the, evolution of it as we've gone on. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this segment and the last call just feeling like they just deserve the top spot to challenge Chaos and Kona?
I see. I feel like there's a lot of teams in WoW who just kind of have a bit of, I want to say, entitlement, thinking that they can just decide when they have matches. I feel like there's certain situations where people might have worked a little bit harder that should have got a title shot or a chance and stuff like that. But I got entitlement. It's kind of the same level of entitlement I got when Miami Sweet Heat was kind of basically saying, well, we're like, it just that level of entitlement, like you're supposed to have something. And while they're good, you guys haven't necessarily won all your recent matches to make you all of a sudden think you're supposed to have a title shot. And at least that's not the way it should work. And so it felt like there was entitlement. Honestly, I was just like, girls, like, yeah, cool, but relax. Like, y'all didn't earn that necessarily. Personally, if I was the Tongas, I would have, like, I guess, the whole fighting champions thing, but I would have been like, man, please, wouldn't have paid you I wouldn't have paid you no title. Like, you're talking to me like that crazy thing. I'm gonna be like, okay, here's a title shot. Not even. They're nicer than I would have been, personally. But I just think it's a lot of entitlement, some audacity to an extent, like a blend of both, that they were feeling themselves thinking that, everybody needs to be quiet and they can get a title shot, as if there's not other teams that may have had closer to a chance to get a shot before them.
You are absolutely right when it comes to the entitlement part, because there are just so many teams like you said, like the Carlson Twins and like the last call, who just feel like everything is just supposed to be handed to them on a silver platter, and like they're not supposed to work for everything. But considering the last match that was supposed to decide the number one contender ended in such a, haphazard and stupid way, which we will get to a little bit later, speaking of the Carlson Twins, everybody and their mama is just trying to jump up in line and just saying, oh, well, I deserve a chance. I deserve a chance. Da 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 da. And that can get kind of disorganized because you have so many people thinking that they deserve an opportunity when they truly haven't fully earned it in the first place. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, these women might have just so easily kidnapped Tiki and in order to get under their skin. And I'm just like, it's so funny that the Tongas were sort of overlooking Tiki a little bit and just sort of little brothering or little sistering her in this case. But now, they really have to check themselves and how much they really care, for Tiki and just fighting for her in that sense. And I really, appreciate that and seeing that from Kona and Chaos. That it's not just about the title, it's about their sisterhood as well. So I appreciate that. And then, of course, you have all the other tag teams who deserve an opportunity too, like the Mother Truckers, who, again, we will get to as we get into the episode. But yeah, there's just always a sense of entitlement. But my thing is, the one thing that Kona and Chaos don't mind doing is humbling you, and we love that. So, like I said, we will go further with that towards the end of the show. And like I mentioned, they did show a recap of the evolution of the WoW Trios tournament, which of course has Team Spirit going for it as well as Exile going for it as well, which leads us into the first match officially on this episode, which was between El Clan Latino, which is Sylvia Sanchez, Vivian Rivera, and Tormenta with Sofia Lopez, the world's greatest attorney, going up against Keta Rush and the Mighty Mites. And this was really interesting because of the fact that the Mighty Mites were in the tournament earlier with Steffi Slays, but they wound up getting eliminated. But because David McLean said that this tournament is ever flowing, anybody can jump back in, and the Mighty Mites got a new partner in Keta Rush, and they came back in. This was a very impressive match on the part of the Mighty Mites and Keta Rush because they seem to have more of a clicking and a chemistry than they had with Steffi Slays, and they seemed to work together really well. So much so to the point to where I really did think that they were going to win. Now, that's not taking anything away from Tormenta and Sylvia and Vivian, because they did have great moments, as you can see with that double suplex to Sugar. But at the same time, like the Mighty Mites and Keta Rush were going so hard that I really did feel like they were going to win, because you had Keta, battling back with her submission work and her MMA background. And then you have sort of like the lucha background that you have from the Mighty Mice. They just seemed to work really well together, and they were just very cohesive in comparison to Tormenta and Sylvia and Vivian, who have never really worked together that many times in the past, or at least since we've been watching WoW, we haven't really seen them work that well together. But of course, in such a sad way, like there was so much amazing athleticism here, but in a sad turn of events, Tormenta and Sylvia and Vivian wound up winning the match and coming out the victor, so they will be moving on in the trios tournament. And they cut a promo afterward saying, not Sylvia, but Sophia was talking about how loyal she has been to the WoW brand and to wrestling, so much so that she crafted this amazing team, which we did, actually talk to her about in terms of creating that Latino representation on WoW. And she wound up, creating this team and wanting them to be as dominant as they could be. And Sylvia was saying, look, no matter what WoW superhero we have to face, we will knock them down so we can be the dominant team in WoW. So yeah, all the girls had a chance to talk, and it was an amazing and clear promo, but at the same time, it broke my heart because I wanted the Mighty Mites to win. I don't think they really have won a match since they've debuted on WoW, and it upsets me because they are so good and they have so much chemistry. Like, what the heck is going on? Why aren't they allowed to win? And Keta, like, she seemed to bring something out of them a whole lot more. So it just disappointed me that they didn't win. But Katrina, tell me how you felt about this match and the chemistry of Keta and the Mighty Mites in comparison to El Clan Latina.
I I I think they had good enough chemistry, Keta and the Mighty Mites, but I do think because Tormenta and Los Bandidas it was a different vibe. We, as you mentioned, we did speak to Sophia when she said that she wanted to have a team which not only focuses on the Latina part, but a strong team, a team that can do multiple things and be as assets in separate different ways. And you have somebody, like Tormenta and Los Bandidas, who, since we've seen them together, has pretty much worked pretty solid together. So I wasn't necessarily surprised that they won it, because I do feel like this is, you guys have been a group together for a bit, for a little bit. But I can understand you wanting the Mighty Mites to win just because they are cool. But also, like, for me, when I'm looking at it from a standpoint of, well, who am I going to believe would be, really getting, who can I believe that would make sense for me to win the trios titles if I'm doing this on this is like basic teamwork or basic chemistry with a group? And for me, of the two, as much as I like Keta, as much as I love, I like the Mighty Mites, I do think that this Tormenta and Los Bandidas just have a better chemistry because of the length of time they've been together under Sophia. So for me, I wasn't too surprised. I felt like that makes sense. Did I think it was a little bit odd that they came back for another tournament match? yeah, even though I understand it was supposed to be, but just for me, it's always like if you lost, how do you get back? Like if other wrestling companies has to be able to like get back in outside of like Mick Foley, because he did do that year at the Rumble when he was 3 times, and there's other characters. So outside of that, you don't really see people pop back in the tournament like that. And so would have. I mean, I guess I got another opportunity, and I think now because they lost both opportunities, they need to do whatever it is. Either if they're gonna pop back up in another trios title, or if they're gonna pop something up, you got to make sure the next person, if that happens again, that it's somebody who you guys can gel enough with, where it's like, all right, well, this maybe can work. But I wasn't surprised. I do think it was a good match, though. I think the ladies did what they're supposed to do, but I was okay with who took it, just because it made more sense for me being Sophia in charge of the three of them, and that they've been together for quite some time now.
I absolutely understand that. The way you explained it was, it was so clear because they have been together as a unit a lot longer under Sofia Lopez. So it makes sense. And you are right about that. But it just seemed like, I guess to me, it's just like, and you're right in the sense that they've been a cohesive unit a lot longer than Keta and the Mighty Mites have. Because here again, the Mighty Mites are still new, and Keta is a wild OG. So they never really worked together like that before, but they were just doing so well. And it's just, I guess it's just my deep desire to just watch the Mighty Mites win. Like Sugar and Spice just have they just have an it about them, like in their abilities, like in their high flying, and just so many things. Like they just have it together. So for me, I'm just like, I'm waiting for them to have that big opportunity where they can, just win. Cause like I said, they have lost a lot. So I definitely understand your perspective on things, and I respect that, most definitely. So yeah. And then also when you think about Tormenta, who also, when it comes to title matches, isn't necessarily the most successful either, but it seemed like she was really big on focus with, her crew, and it's really interesting. And I'm wondering if she will go forward, and win this tournament with them so she can have a level of gold. Like, and then speaking of gold, like when they win the tournament, I know there is that trophy, but will they have titles? That's what I want to see. Like, I want to see a championship belt. I want to see a trios championship belt. That would be cute. But yeah, like, it makes sense. You're right. It makes sense. But I just want the Mighty Mice to win. I'm just really sad about it, but it's okay. I am glad that they will be moving to the semifinals. El Clan Latina will be moving forward. And in speaking of another team that's moving to the semifinals, you have Team Spirit in the background. And Coach Campanelli had a surprise waiting for her from Pep Riley and Ariel Sky. And she asked him, like, what is it, a sale on tracksuits? And they were like, no, it's much better than that. And they surprised her with a new member of their team in the form of Sasha Sparks. And she's this beautiful girl, who popped up in a cheerleading outfit and was just really happy to be there. But Coach Campanelli did not seem thrilled. She was right there. She was like, first of all, why did y'all bring her? That's not how she said it, but I'm paraphrasing. She was just like, why did y'all bring her? Like, what are y'all doing? And Ariel was like, well, we were just listening to you, coach. You were talking about, how you coach us and you wrestle at the same time. So we got another member with us so you can just focus on coaching full time. So essentially they were trying to help her, but coach didn't appreciate that because she was just like, yeah, I can coach and I can wrestle. So she felt very conflicted. But then Sasha was like, look, it's such an honor to meet you, and I'm willing to listen to whatever it is you have to say. And coach was like, yeah, I guess you guys just don't listen to me because, I'm the coach. Y'all are not. So she just didn't like that they made a decision. So she pushed past them and just walked away. And we will see where she went a little bit later. But it was just really crazy to see that she wasn't that welcoming to Sasha Sparks. But, in the midst of this, we did get a debut of a new wild girl. So welcome to Sasha Sparks, and I can't wait to see what you have to offer here. So Kat, how do you feel about the debut of Sasha and what Coach had to say about her?
I think Coach was being a bit mean. Um, I feel I feel like I get it. You want things to work in a certain way, in a certain order. You're the coach, but sometimes you gotta understand that you can learn from your team. Coaches can truly learn from their team. And if you have somebody who's been eager to join and do good and do what I guess you want the goal for your team to be, don't be so mean. I thought she was a little bit mean about it. But then it made me think of how she was previously, like, last season, especially how sometimes she was with Brandy. Well, I'm like, sometimes she was a little bit mean or a little bit more aggressive than you needed to be. Like, all right, relax, coach. They got it. And so I thought she was a little bit mean about it. But I am looking forward to see, what Sugar does. I like just to see how that dynamic's gonna work. I feel like for the members that popped in, because even when Ariel's, Sky first got there, and when Randy was still there, she was treating Ariel a little bit different as well. And then she seemed like she kind of understood, or I was like, all right, she accepted that, and then they got somebody else. And so it's like, oh, here's another person. And this is probably like a lot for her, just in regards to like, oh, okay, like I gotta get the pieces in play the way I want to get the pieces in play. I think that's what she's kind of doing. But I thought she was a bit mean about it. I am looking forward to see what goes with the team, but I do think she was a bit mean. And I was like, you don't have to do all that, sis. Like, all right, relax. Not that deep, I promise. But yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy because I was just like, why are you this angry? Like, why are you this upset that they brought in a member? I mean, because I understand, I guess she didn't ask for another member. She didn't really want another member. So there was never really anything that she said that truly alluded to it. So I guess her team was just like, yeah, well, let's just do this and just help her. And they just assumed that maybe she wanted to help. But at the same time, she didn't have to be that mean to her because Sasha is essentially coming into a situation where she doesn't know really the vibe of everything. So to take it out on her in that way was really harsh. And I was just like, girl, calm down. But I do wish that she had stayed and talked with Pep and Ariel about it a little bit more, as opposed to just pushing past him and just not worrying about it. But of course we will see, how it went with another wrinkle in things in this episode. But after that, backstage we saw Rebel Haze, and we hadn't seen her in a minute, so it was good to see her again prepping for her match. And she got a gift from the heavy metal sister Fury, and Fury gave her a guitar pick. And as a person who used to play bass guitar a long time ago, I feel like I've lived at least 4 different lives, and I'm just 30 years old. Um, when I used to play bass guitar, I used to collect guitar picks as well. I even had one as a necklace. So I know, how special those could be. So the idea that Fury gave it to her, sort of like a good luck charm, was just really cool. And Rebel was like, thank you. I love it. And I was just like, I really love her, rock persona because, we're just really loud and enthusiastic in that way. Like I just love that whole persona that she has because it's just rock and it's just loud and I just love it. So she seemed very grateful for it, and Fury did seem a little bit resigned about it because here lately in her journey, since she keeps saying, she wants to go after her platinum selling album, which is the Wow World title, she hasn't been as successful. So maybe she feels like, well, maybe her energy should go towards, encouraging somebody else. But I'm just like, Fury, you got to encourage yourself. Do not give up on yourself, ma'am. Or maybe I'm just reading too much into it. But either way, I did think that was a nice gesture, towards Rebel Haze going into her match. So Katrina, how do you feel about the trajectory of Fury, and how did you feel about her giving the guitar pick to Rebel?
I think it was a nice gesture. I can understand the disappointment to an extent because it's like she kind of alluded to possibly, going solo last season when it was a lot of that discord between the group as it was. And so her deciding to, do that, but unfortunately not having many, victories on that path so far can be a bit like unsettling, could be a bit, disappointing. I do you know, I feel like her just trying to keep the heavy metal alive, and you have somebody who's can kind of fit in a tag with that kind of style with that vibe. I thought it was a nice little friendly gesture. I thought that was nice of her. Not a lot nicer, honestly, than I've seen her in last season. They were kind of heelish, in the last season, the Heavy Metal Sisters, and so her, maybe her not winning as much or winning the way I guess she expected to maybe had her change her heart just a little bit, where she was a little bit more kinder being more kind in gesture, and maybe the tide will change for her going forward. But I thought it was a nice gesture. I do understand again though how it can be pretty disappointing thinking like I'm going to make this step by myself, and it's like, oh no, it's not working the way I thought this was going to work, or it's not going the way I thought this was going to go. But I do appreciate. I thought it was a really nice gesture. I was like, okay, here you go. Like that's nice. That's cool.
Yeah, I thought it was nice too. And I thought it was really nice. I was just like, that is so sweet. I love it. I love it because it's just a level of sisterhood and they have that in common. Like one girl is, an anti establishment, and then another girl is a hard rocker. And when you combine both things, they meld well together. And I feel like in another life, Rebel Haze would have been a heavy metal sister and it would have worked out really well. So, hey, I am definitely okay with that. I loved it a whole lot. So, I'm just going to need for Fury, I just want Fury to just, believe in herself a little bit more and just start clobbering people. And just being, who I know she could be, and just believing in herself in the best way. So it was nice. So moving forward into match number 2, we have Rebel Haze versus Gloria Glitter. And of course, Gloria Glitter is out here, she's been going on a tear since she's made her debut on WoW. She has, lost a few matches here and there, but the majority of them have been wins. And she is someone who has been impressing me a whole lot, as of late, in her trajectory on WoW. So Gloria and Rebel sort of charged at each other in the beginning, but then Gloria Glitter sort of rolled through and then they locked up officially. And Rebel pushed Gloria, towards the ropes, and then Gloria was yelling, "She's got my perm! She's got my perm!" And I thought that was really funny. And my boyfriend was watching and he was just like, "This sounds very 80s." And I was just like, low-key, it sounds very 90s because I mean, we had perms, like, but thankfully I've been natural for over 11 years. So I don't really, know about that anymore. But in the midst of that, Gloria was stomping on Rebel's feet and hitting her with all of her best moves and all of the above. But Rebel was definitely giving her a run for her money. Like she was leaping over Gloria every time she tried to, beat up on her. This match went a lot longer than I expected it to go, in comparison with the two, because we know that Gloria has previous experience outside of WoW, and then you have Rebel, who is relatively new. But Rebel was able to hit drop kicks to Gloria, even tangle her up in the ropes and beat her up. Gloria even hit a stair stepper to Rebel's back. So it was a very back and forth affair between the women. And Gloria even tried to go for a sharpshooter, but Rebel kicked her off and they gave forearms to each other over and over again. It was a very hard hitting, affair, and it was also full of submissions and everything. It was a really great match, but in the end, in a very surprising move, Rebel Haze wound up winning because Gloria Glitter thought she had the cover on her, but Rebel put her foot on the rope and broke it up, and then as Gloria was prematurely celebrating, she covered her for the 1, 2, 3, and Rebel won. So these are the things we love. These are the upsets that we live for. So it was great. I loved it a lot. It was fantastic. I love this match, and Rebel deserved this victory. So Katrina, how did you feel about this match?
I thought it was good. I was actually surprised with the win as well. I know, I like, Gloria, I think as far as debuts between the two, has had more wins under her belt. And so I think Gloria, who should have realized, you're supposed to be, um, somebody who's more aware of this whole, like, the vibe of her being like this exercise. So you're supposed to know when the crowd is with you, but you're supposed to also know when the correct time to end. There's like that the time when people starts kind of winding down at the end of a routine, or you're like, all right, let's get you. She should have been to that point. This was that winding down time. You're celebrating too soon, and look what it costed her a win. I do think that for Rebel, this should feel good because she wasn't necessarily winning so many for matches necessarily. But kind of, I don't know if it's a little bit of a nice edge because Fury gave her a guitar pick and maybe it gave her a little extra boost of confidence going in. But I thought the match was good. I do think that these ladies, complemented each other well in the way they wrestle. But I thought it was cool that Rebel won. Like Gloria's cool, she is, but she sometimes would be a little kind of mean. She's also kind of mean, sometimes, especially when she'd be doing things like walking on people. She'd be like on people's backs and stuff. Personally, can be me, but I respect that she, I guess this is what it is for her. I do think it was a solid match though, and I'm happy that Rebel won. And hopefully, this will give her more of a boost going forward as far as her spirits, that she can maybe win some more, have more victories and well.
Yeah, like I couldn't believe it. Like the idea that she really did just, win the match, but in just the most calculated way. Like, oh, you thought you won? Boop. And that was it. I was just like, okay, that's cool. But really, like this entire match was just really, um, it was just a really good showcase of what both women has to offer inside of the ring. Like I was just really happy with the way that it went, and the fact that Rebel won, and and she gets to celebrate that was just really cool. So big ups to her. I'm so happy for her, and Gloria really has nothing to be ashamed of here. But as it turns out, she might have had something to be ashamed of, because we did see backstage that she did talk to Coach Campanelli, who was walking back there and sulking after what just happened with, Sasha Sparks becoming a part of Team Spirit, and she had nothing to do with it. Coach said, what's the matter with you? And then Gloria was like, did you see my match? And then Coach was like, I did actually. And then Gloria said, yeah, I should have won, and I should have had it in the bag. And then Coach said, you did have that. But she said, can I give you a coach tip? And then Gloria was like, yes, please. And she was like, you took your eye off the ball and you celebrated too soon. And Gloria was like, yeah, you are so right. And then Coach says, I've said it before. You've got potential. You just got to keep your eyes on the prize. With a few more coach tips, you may get that prize. And then Gloria thanked her, and then she walked away. And I was just like, so you mean to tell me that you might be thinking about listening and coaching Gloria Glitter on the side when you got this whole other team over here and you're angry at them, but then you want somebody who's just going to kowtow to you? Like, that's low-key what it seems like to me. Because Gloria was, willing to listen to her advice or whatever. But my thing is, that doesn't give you the right to just leave the team that you built behind either. So I'm gonna need for Coach to really like sit down and take all the dip off of her chip and really like get herself together. So Katrina, what did you glean from that interaction? Are we on the same page or are we on a different chapter?
I kind of agree with you there. I do think that it's a weird thing that if you're kind of doing this with your own team, um, but then you're sitting here kind of like you're sitting there coaching somebody else. It kind of, for me, it's like, while I'm all for trying to help your fellow woman out and everything, it's also like if you're being one way with your squad but being different with somebody else, I might have to give you a bit of a side eye, because like, I'm sorry, are we not going to be some loyal? Are we going to have loyalty in some capacity? Are we going to have that? I think, I kind of gave her a little bit of a side eye for that. Like, ma'am, hello, you got a whole squad. Like, why are we not giving the same level of love and dedication to the squad, but you're giving it to somebody who's not part of your team? And so I think we're in regards to how we feel, I think we're both kind of on the same page with that one. I don't think she should necessarily be doing that. If she has a team, it's like you can be helpful, but you can't be helpful to one person and not to the other. It's kind of rude to me personally. It's like when it's like, oh, you can't give me what I'm asking, you give it to somebody else. It's those vibes, I just feel like you're not doing that for your squad, but for somebody else, and doing it kindly. It's like, when it be me, I would probably say something if that was me. And I'm sure if the team felt the way about that, I would say that. I mean, personally, I would say something, but that definitely can kind of side eye, especially after what was happening a little bit earlier, where it was again not too necessarily a nice reaction. Then you're sitting here being all helpful to somebody else. It's like, girl, get it together.
Like, it's stupid. Like, I hate it because, I mean, not to call Coach Campanelli stupid, because God knows, I mean, I would never be that disrespectful, but I feel like that move really was dumb. And I've said it before in previous circles that I really feel like Coach Campanelli has her moments where she feels that if you are not just ultimately listening to her, and if she is not speaking up for you and not, letting people have autonomy, like, it's like if if she it lets you have autonomy, I low-key feel like she sees that as a weakness. And that's not a weakness, because if you're a coach and if you're a teacher or if you're in anything, you have to listen to people, because you're just because they're underneath you as a student or as a player or something like that doesn't mean that you can just treat them any kind of way and not listen to them. And honestly, what Pep and Ariel showed was that they had initiative in trying to go out and find somebody that could fight the battles while she is coaching them, because they were just trying to help, and they had, good intentions, whether you liked it or not. And it just seems like because they chose to do this on their own and because she didn't tell them to do it, then that's her problem. And that angers me, because I'm just like, ma'am, they're trying to help you out and they're trying to advance the team. Why are you out here acting up? Why are you out here acting this crazy? Like, it makes no sense for you to be, getting this book and then trying to seek validation from someone who isn't even on the team with you, who you said has potential, who you gave this advice to that you didn't even have to give advice to, and now you're giving her all of these coach tips or whatnot. And it's just like, ma'am, this isn't going to work. So it's like you're cheating on your team because they're not giving you what you want. And I hate it. Like, girl, sit down, stop it. Like, you really need to stop it. Like, you need to listen to these people, listen to your teammates. Like, they're not just going to do as you say. There's no little I's and big U's. It's ridiculous. Like, it's just really gross. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but basically what I'm just gathering from it is just the fact that coach just wants everybody to just kowtow behind her and just not question it. And it's just like, ma'am, these are human beings and you need to treat them as such. So moving on, before I go in any further, Lauren Hunkley introduces Samantha Smart. And so Samantha Smart comes out here because, of course, she's the leader of Team IQ Superior. And something interesting that David McClain mentioned is the fact that him, and a number of other people who work on the WOW staff are all from Indiana. And I thought that was interesting. I've never been to Indiana, but I do think it's amazing how, all those Indiana people are right there creating WOW. And I just think that's cute. So big ups to Indiana. Maybe one day I'll go up there and see what y'all got going on. But yeah, Samantha came out there and said, have you no manners? You shut your mouth when your superior is speaking to you. I have something very important to determine tonight. And she went on to announce that the next match was going to be a leader of the pack match to see who's going to be in second in command to Team IQ Superior. So essentially, in the spirit of bad coaching, she was pitting her team against each other to see who was going to be the leader. So the next match was a triple threat match between the disciplinarian, G.I. Jane, and the class master. And Samantha Smart was on commentary. So throughout the match, she was talking about how smart she is and just, what her strategy is for her team. But the rest of the match was really amazing because these women were very evenly matched when it comes to the power dynamic and the strength dynamic, because these women, of course, look very statuesque and tall and really big. So a part of me was like, bro, how is this match going to go? Because these women are just up here. Like, it's just pretty insane how this is going to happen. So and then I just love the fact that these, what's the other part that I love? Hmm, I lost my train of thought. Oh my gosh. Wait, no, I know what I loved. I love that the fans were cheering for G.I. Jane in the beginning. They were like, G.I. Jane, G.I. Jane. And I was just like, bro, this is a heel faction. And everybody is legit cheering for her right now. And I love it. So I've been wanting G.I. Jane to get this kind of love for a long time. So this match was really physical. All of these women were giving each other big boots. Disciplinarian was talking all kinds of trash in the beginning. She was like, oh, so you want to be the leader? What makes you think you should be the leader? And then G.I. Jane was like, shut up, and then gave her a big boot. And then Classmaster gave her a boot. And they were just destroying each other. And at one point, G.I. Jane was stomping on Disciplinarian, was telling her, you are the one who needs discipline. And they were just fighting each other. And then G.I. Jane moved out of the way as Classmaster charged towards her. And then she speared the Disciplinarian. Like, it was just really crazy. And I was just like, bro, when are y'all gonna realize that Samantha Smart is playing y'all against each other. Like, I was just wondering when are they going to realize that, but I guess they really just don't know because they just want to be dominant. And in the midst of all of this, G.I. Jane was finally able to win by hitting a discharged DDT to I believe, to the class master, and she wound up winning the match. So, in the midst of her winning this match, she gets attacked by both the disciplinarian and the class master, but then she fights back and hits a double clothesline to them and asserts her dominance as the leader of the pack. And this made me so happy because number one, it is Black History Month and Black women need to win. And number two, because G.I. Jane deserves this because she was the one who was wrongfully blamed, for the loss that they took in the trios tournament by the class master. So the idea that she was able to win was just like, yes, like I just really loved it. So Katrina, how did you feel about this triple threat match? And how do you feel about G.I. Jane being the leader of the pack now?
I liked it. I liked your segue into the be Black History Month. So it worked in that regard. But I think that the fact that the three ladies on that team are big. I said so many times how I like that some of them was starting to use their size, use their height. And I feel like this was a perfect way to show that because all three of them were pretty physical in this. This is a good example of using that size just to help you out in a match. It's necessary. I was perfectly fine, and as much as I like them all for separate reasons. When I'm thinking of how all of them been since being together, and I think about how it was with this disciplinarian, and how for a long time she wasn't using her size, and it was kind of annoying me in regards to like, girl, you gotta use it. And I feel like G.I. from the very beginning kind of came in already knowing where she stood in regards to using height to help her, using things to her advantage. And to me, it's like if you want somebody second in command, you gotta have a person who can use the knowledge and assets that they have, and she is. And so for me, I was perfectly fine with her winning because if I'm thinking about the three of them separately and matches that they were in, G.I. Jane probably had the best record in regards to trying to use what she has and use what she knows being in that team. And so for me, if I want to choose a second person, it would be a person who knows how to use some knowledge of it, who can use the knowledge to like, I can do this in this match. I'm gonna use this to my advantage if you're trying to have a second person in command. And so for me, I was fine with it. I'm glad that you won. And of course, it's obviously a bonus because it is Black History Month. Hey, all those good things. I'm with it.
Period. As Eric in the comments is saying, G.I. Jane is the woman. You ain't lying. She does not play any games, and I just love her so much. So the fact that she won and asserted her dominance in that way just really made me glad. I was like, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Like, I was just so happy. And just the idea that they would just gang up on her after winning just kind of sucked for me. I was just like, so y'all just gonna gang up on her after she won and she decisively beat y'all? And then the fact that Samantha was really like bigging them up for it was just kind of irritating. I was just like, come on. But now they really got to do what she says now. And it's just like, I wonder how that's going to go. And then I'm wondering how long is Samantha Smart going to deal with it until she gets tired of it. And then she might turn on G.I. Jane. Like that, I feel like that trajectory would be insane. But G.I. Jane is now the leader of the pack. She is second in command to Team IQ Superior. So we just got to see what happens from there. And then we got a promo from Miami Sweet Heat who were talking about how tired they were of those hillbillies in the form of the Mother Truckers, Big Rig Betty, and Holly Swag taking over and taking opportunities from them, even though, they're the prettiest and they're the richest, and they should be, the Wild Tag Team champions at this point and the number one contenders. And it was just really irritating to hear them, talking all this trash about the Mother Truckers when the Mother Truckers should be the ones who are, the number one contenders. They should be fighting the Tonga Twins in this episode, instead of the last call. But that's just where we're at now, and it's just so sad how they were just bum rushing them. And then the Carlson Twins even took it a step further by saying that Big Rig Betty and Holly Swag wouldn't be anything on WoW without them because they were the ones who gave them the tickets to the show. And I was just like, you know what? I'm glad y'all went back and said that because for a minute, I legit forgot that they were the reason why, they made their WoW debut because they invited them on the show because they towed their car and everything. And I was like, wow, No pun intended. Like, I forgot about it because so much has happened. But I was just like, how dare y'all just be that mean and just be like, oh, well, they would be nothing without us and they just need to know their place and blah, blah, blah. And of course, Betty and Holly did not take too kindly to that. Holly is, of course, the hothead. So she was real angry about it. So this led to them, challenging the entirety of the Fab Four along with the Carlson twins. And I guess we just got to see how that's going to turn out. But it's just really crazy. So after that promo, we saw Kona and Chaos hyping each other up to fight against the last call. And they were just like, oh, when I get my hands on Raina and when I get my hands on Wrecking Ball, there's gonna be no stopping them. And before the main event started, they did announce that finally this weekend we will be getting Princess Aussie versus Abilene Maverick for the WoW World title. Princess Aussie gets her rematch, and I am so happy because it felt like everybody and their mama was getting their rematch and getting their opportunity before her. And I'm just like, no, she was the champion. She should be first in line. So now we finally get to see Princess Aussie tackle Abilene Maverick after her being gone for so long or whatever. And we finally get to see, if Abilene Maverick can match wits with Princess Aussie and just how hungry she is for that title again. I'm really pumped about that. So that is happening this weekend, and I'm pumped. So this leads us into our main event, which was, of course, the last call versus, the Tonga Twins for the WoW Tag Team Championships. And in the beginning, which was full circle, the Tonga Twins made their entrance and dropped their titles and just got to fighting with them immediately. And I was just like, yes, let's get into it. Like, Nuck if you buck, let's go. And they basically had the advantage and the upper hand in the first half of the match, like the whole time. They were beating up on Wrecking Ball. Like, they even knocked Reina Del Rey out of the ring for the first 10 minutes of the match. And they were just destroying Wrecking Ball back and forth. But once Reina got back into the match, she tripped up one of the twins and basically started taking advantage and beating up on Chaos, and then Kona had to fight back eventually, and it was just like a back and forth between the two, basically like a power match. I feel like the first time we saw these teams fight each other, I felt like their first match was a little bit better than this one, but either way, this one wasn't bad either. They were giving each other headbutts and double elbows and everything. Like, there were a couple of times where the Tonga Twins were really just taking it to Wrecking Ball and just giving double elbows, double super kicks, and all the things. It was just incredible. But in the end, the Tonga Twins wound up retaining their titles by hitting a Samoan drop onto Wrecking Ball and hitting a double clothesline to Reina Del Rey, and they retained their WoW Tag Team Championships. And on social media, Heidi Howitzer, who is, of course, known as Wrecking Ball in WoW, alluded to the fact that this would be her last match on WoW. And on social media, Reina Del Rey was showing her love. So this really might be the last time we might see Wrecking Ball and Reina Del Rey as a team together, and just her last time period. So we do wish her the very best in her future endeavors as she continues her women's wrestling career. But the Tonga Twins are still dominant champions, and no one else has, challenged them. So I guess after this match, they went to go ahead and try and find Tiki because, of course, she's been kidnapped. But yeah, they're still the champions. So we started our episode with the Tongas and ended this episode with the Tongas. So Katrina, how do you feel about this match and the fact that the Tongas are still the champions?
Well, I'm happy, especially, being that the last call just kind of put themselves in there in the first place. It's like, all right, I don't know why y'all thought y'all was going to win. I personally, if somebody talks smack to me beforehand and then think, oh, we're going to fight you, okay, well, now we're going to have a good time while I'm fighting you for telling me. I would have done exactly the same thing. We don't even need to do entrances. I'm going to just kick you behind under. And those are the vibes I'm on. I like, this is one of those, like, beat up first, ask question later vibes. I'm cool with it. I like they kept the titles, and why I do like, Heidi, Wrecking Ball, or as I know her as Heidi. So, like, while I am a fan, I do think like y'all was doing a little too much. Just just trying to think y'all belong in places y'all didn't belong in, because I could have sworn you guys had a match and you guys not too long ago you lost. And so it's too much of this. Is kind of the same with Tormenta, where she just felt she got to keep being title picture. Like, ma'am, you lost multiple times. Relax. It's not your time anymore. So I'm good with the Tongas winning. I do, for Wrecking Ball in regards that, whatever happens going forward, I, hope she continues to thrive in that manner. I do now curious what they're going to do with Rena, because, she was, solo for a little bit. And then all of a sudden she was with this team. And so, it just kind of, what do you do with her now? Is she going to go back to what she was doing previously, meaning going for a solo title shot, back to wanting the main title, or would they put her with somebody else that may need a little? And I feel like it'd have to be somebody who's a bit heelish, unless she does a 180. She's before, as far as we've been watching, she's pretty much been a heel. And so it's like, well, who can you play her up with if you want to keep her on a team? Or is she going to go back to thinking about just solely what can she do, what can she accomplish as, in while as on her solo career again? So, but I thought it was a good match. I thought the Tongas did what needed to be done. They stood on business, as the saying goes, and left. They came in and left that episode as champion. So I was perfectly fine with it. I thought it was a good match.
Yeah, it was a good match. And I do wonder, what's going to happen with Reina Del Rey now. I feel like she was pretty dominant as a single star, and I actually liked her better as a single star than I did when she was with Wrecking Ball as a tag team. And that's no shade to her, but I just liked Reina better when she was on her own and by herself. So maybe she will actually explore that a little bit more, because she really was gunning for the title when the Beast had it. And then, once everything happened with the Beast and the Fab Four, everything just kind of just fell apart, and she wound up joining the tag team with Wrecking Ball. And that was fine, but I want to see her more on her own now. Now that Wrecking Ball will probably not be on the show anymore. But the Tongas have a stranglehold on the titles, and I'm glad. I'm still really glad that they are champions, considering we had to wait so long for them to become champions in the first place. So it makes sense for them to be champions for a very long period of time. And I'm definitely here for it. It's abundantly clear that they are grabbing people's attention. um, like we talked about earlier. So I'm just really happy for them in that regard, and they definitely deserve it. So big ups to Kona and Chaos for still being the WoW Tag Team Champions. And that is, of course, how this episode of WoW ended. Thank you guys so much for watching with us, and also, commenting in the comments or watching us, and of course, if you're going to watch this later, we thank you for watching it a little bit later. And of course, speaking of Kona and Chaos, please watch our interview that we had with the WoW Tag Team Champions on both of our YouTube channels. That's The Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. We had a good time with them, as well as the interview that Katrina did with Jesse Jones. Please, watch that interview as well, because it was really good. And Jesse Jones has her eye on the ball now that Amber O'Neal is back. And she alluded on Twitter that she might want to challenge the Tonga Twins for those titles. So they might be next in line. You never know. But either way, it's cool stuff. So please go and watch those interviews, and just continue to watch every episode of Steph and Cat Talk WoW that we have available in our playlist. And thank you guys for being supportive, even as we have to like reschedule things, because life be lifing. But as long as wrestling is going on, we're going to be here. And of course, continue to support WoW Superheroes by following them on Instagram and Twitter /X at WoW Superheroes, and follow them on YouTube so you can watch all of their matches that they post up the week after the weekend it airs. And you can watch it on your cable provider. Go on wowe.com and figure out where it comes on television for you, and all of the things. Just support WoW Superheroes and support women's wrestling in general. That's independent, mainstream, or otherwise. Support it everywhere. And support women working in wrestling behind the scenes, writers, commentators, content creators, media members, all of us, because we are out here doing the dang thing and standing on business all 2024. So, Katrina, tell everybody where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on.
I can be found on most social media. In Cat We Trust, Threads, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. These are three. You can also follow me on YouTube in Cat We Trust as well, where I have both episodes of Second Cat Talk Wow, the interviews with both the Tongas and Jesse, but also all the other miscellaneous things I have on there, ranging from wrestling to a bunch of other topics. And I do have a new interview actually coming out tomorrow, so it should be cool. So catch me there as far as what's going on. And if you guys want to check out Title Match Network, because I did do work a show last week, you can definitely check out We Are Wrestling's Don't Call It a Comeback. Super awesome crowd, super awesome show, super awesome matches, and I had a lot of fun with my 18 interviews that I had to do that day. 18 interviews, so girlie was tired when I got home, but it was definitely a great show. So if you guys check that out, that would be great.
Yes, like Katrina be interviewing everybody, and in the midst of all of the silliness or just the craziness that happens in general on We Are Wrestling, she maintains, and I love that. She maintains composure through all of it, and it is just the most coolest thing to watch. So she is out here, and I am so proud of her and happy that she is my partner in crime. Now, of course, if you want to follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter and Threads at Queen Steph Hardy, and follow the Hardy Wrestling Podcast on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast, and on X/Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod. And subscribe to the YouTube channel where you can catch most or all of my interviews, as well as the playlist for Steph and Cat Talk Wow as well, and just be on the lookout for so many new things. I will be at Comic-Con this weekend in the Birmingham area, so if you are in the area and you love anime but you also love wrestling too, I will be there. And of course, New Era Wrestling will be there too, so please be on the lookout for both of those things. And I'm really grateful to have made it to 4 years today of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. I never imagined that this is what my life was going to look like at all. Um, Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think about this, and I never thought anybody would listen to me talk about wrestling in this way. But I'm so happy that I, just took a chance to just talk about wrestling in a healthy and positive way. And it's just, grown into this baby network that I'm trying to, keep watering to grow into so many different things. And I'm just so grateful for all of the support that I've gotten over the past 4 years, from people like Katrina, from everyone who watches and everyone who's interested in what I've got going on. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you all. And hopefully, it'll be another 4 years and it'll be awesome after that. But you never know what happens. So thank you guys so much for your love and support. And I hope to keep giving you great wrestling content as we evolve. So, this has been Steph and Cat Talk Wow, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. And until next time, bye, y'all.